You are listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry.
Today's guest is Kevin Switaj. Kevin is the President and Chief Executive Officer of BZ Opportunity Management. An experienced proposal professional, he has led bids of diverse sizes and requirements for a wide range of government clients. He has developed, implemented, and refined lifecycle processes at firms, resulting in a minimum of 50% improvement in win rate year over year. He is a former member of the APMP National Capital Area Board of Directors and served as a mentor in the chapter's mentor-protege program for multiple years. He is a well-recognized thought leader in the field who speaks regularly at regional and international conferences. Kevin has won multiple awards for his writing on opportunity management and regularly blogs on the BZ Opportunity Management site. He is also involved in his community, volunteering for his community swim association and his son's Cub Scout pack. Welcome, Kevin, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thanks, Ashley. It's great to be here.
So, Kevin, we are curious, where were you born? Where did you grow up? And where did you go to school?
So I was born in Bayonne, New Jersey, which is just outside New York City, just across the Hudson. I grew up mainly in central New Jersey, Middlesex County, New Jersey, and then went to private Catholic high school. And from there stayed local, went to Rutgers for my undergraduate, which was in political science and history. Wow. Went on from there to get a master's at Villanova University in history and my PhD at Indiana University in British history. So not the normal career path for most people in proposal development.
Yeah, very interesting study. So what made you pursue that PhD topic?
So I loved history from when I was very little, and I studied all the way through undergrad. And my junior year, I spent at the University of Bristol in Southwest England, and it was a life-changing experience. It was amazing. I loved every second of it, and it shifted my mindset from looking at American history to looking at history across the Atlantic. So kind of transatlantic trends between especially the British and Americas during the colonial period and during the 19th century. And so I just followed a couple of great historians, Seth Coven and Dror Warman, who were my advisors at Villanova and Indiana, respectively. And just was a topic that I loved, that I really was interested in, and decided to keep studying. So didn't want to get a real job yet. So that came much later on.
Yeah, no, that sounds so fascinating. So did you think you were going to write books or be a professor? What did you end up doing for your first job?
Yeah, so that was my goal all the way into getting my PhD, was to go preferably at a small liberal arts school and, be a British history professor and write and all of that. But I decided when I was getting my PhD, based on what the job market looked like then, that was in the mid to late 2000s. So, 2005, 2006 range, and decided that, that wasn't going to be the right course for me based on what the job market looked like and everything. So my first real job was, if you don't count the summer that I was the broadcaster for the El Paso Diablo baseball team, my first real job was working as a trainer and doing some basic IT support at the Patent and Trademark Office on a contract, which is how I got into government contracting.
Oh, very cool. So was it that contract experience that eventually got you into proposals?
It was. I started about 2 years into my job there, started working as a contributor on proposals and started looking for a new challenge. And my program manager on that contract said, we have an opening in our proposal department. I think it would be something that you're good at. And I went over and shadowed for a day. And I'll remember this for the rest of my life. I went over to shadow. The person I was going to shadow in the morning wasn't there. And one of the other proposal people, who's still a very good friend of mine, came out and said, so Tim was here till 4 a.m. finishing up our proposal. So he's working from home today. So you'll be shadowing me in the morning and so in the afternoon. And I'm like, wait, what? Why was he here till 4 a.m? I don't understand. Work ends at 4 p.m. But fell in love with the job idea and the team, and transferred over, about a month later, and been doing proposals ever since.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So even though you knew right off the bat that you could be there, perhaps till the early morning hours the next day, you decided to jump all in.
I did, and in fact, my wife, we were engaged at the time. She had been working in contracts for quite a while since she had left school as a contracts administrator. So she was giving me the warnings ahead of time, like, A, you'd be really good at this, but B, it's insane and weird hours, and you have to deal with lots of different types of people, but you'll be really good at it. It was kind of how she boxed it. And so even though that was kind of alarming, that 4 a.m. would be alarming, I am glad that my career has not included a lot of those late nights. So.
Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with, if you are the proposal manager, you have a lot more control over whether that's going to happen. So that said, over the years, I'm sure you've worked on a bunch of very interesting or memorable proposal efforts. Is there one that sticks out in your mind?
There's been a couple that were amazingly well run that I was involved in. And I think the best one of all was a bid when I was with Agility, where we really planned and developed a strategy to take away a piece of work from a company that had had it for over 30 years. Wow. And this was a multi-year capture effort where the capture lead was engaged with not only the technical client, but the contracting office. It was meeting with them, every few weeks to get some information and to continue to put our name out there. We convened for 2 weeks, in the area where the bid was based for the initial writing. And it just, the bid, for as important and complex as it was, went really smoothly. And we ended up winning and taking that, I think it was a 32-year incumbent down, and with just a really good proposal and a really great strategy. And for me, that's one that always kind of, when people say, well, it was your best proposal effort, that always pops to the top of the list.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Those amazing takeaways and the ones that are so well run and just fun to be a part of will always stay with us, won't they?
Yeah. And that one, it was a great team. Everybody was engaged, and, things go wrong on proposals all the time, right? I mean, there's always issues and fires that you have to put out, but nobody panicked when any of them came up, and it just stayed as as mostly a steady ship. And we were just really happy with it. And in the end, when we walked out of the war room the last day, we were like, we've really got a good chance on this. And I think it was about 6 to 8 months later, we got the notice that we had won, and everybody's like just so excited in the office the day after we found out. And, we'd had a formal win party and all that. It was just a great time. I think it's a great use of my skills that I've developed throughout. So the fact that it's something I feel comfortable in, I think is kind of the most important part. You have to love what you do if you're going to be passionate about it, I think. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact there's always new challenges, that each bid, there's whether it's a different government client, or especially now that I'm consulting, different clients of ours, or, different technical areas or whatnot, there's always something on a bid that's different from anything else that I've done. And I just really enjoy that challenge and being able to meet those challenges. And I still find it fun, which, just makes me a little bit crazy, but I just love it. And for some reason, it's just, I feel like I found something that I really like doing and is a good match for what I can do.
Absolutely. I think those of us crazy people who also are passionate about proposals can relate to what you've said about the profession and, the changing every day, and it just always stays interesting. So, I totally hear you there. So from proposals, you've gone on to kind of this entrepreneurial adventure. And as part of that, you give these really cool training courses. And I'm curious if, you have a favorite of those courses that you like to facilitate.
Yeah, I think the most recent one that we've put up on our site, BZ Proposal Training, is Writing to Win, which is about creating empathetic proposals and helping people see how to shift the proposal mindset from either just a business document or something about us to writing with the client in mind first and trying to make that emotional connection to our clients. And for me, that's where a lot of my passion about the field right now is, in focusing on helping teams realize that there's more to a proposal than just a technical response, that there needs to be a connection to your evaluator so that they're willing to take the risk to jump from their current provider or from how they're currently doing work into what you're proposing. And so we just did training in March. It was a online workshop that was related to the SPAC conference, the Southern Proposal Accents Conference. And the training itself went really well. And it's just a fun topic for me at this point to train on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And such an important piece of the proposal, right? If you don't connect with your evaluators and you can't get them to kind of understand what you're bringing of value, you're just never going to get that win, or it's going to be much more difficult. So
exactly.
Amazing. Okay, before we dig deeper into your entrepreneurial side and your APMP experiences, we're curious, what 3 things do not many people know about you?
So I kind of give away the what I would say the first one is, and that's that I actually have a background in broadcasting. I was the radio voice of the El Paso Diablos of, at that time, the Central Baseball League in 2005. Before that, when I was in grad school at Indiana, I was working at the campus radio station where I was doing football and basketball and soccer and all these other great sports. The highlight of that was definitely interviewing English soccer legend Sir Bobby Charlton. Huge Manchester United fan, and scored a press pass to see them play Bayern Munich in Chicago. I want to say it was 2003 or 2004. And I was on the field, and Sir Bobby Charlton was there, and I just said, why not? And I stuck a microphone in his face, and he was very, very good about answering, a minute or 2 questions from me. And that was awesome. And a friend of mine who was there took a picture, and I still have it on my wall in my office here.
What a story.
So the second is, as much as I love soccer and love playing soccer, I hate running, which given the fact that's what most of soccer is, but I hate running. Although with everything that's been going on, I've had to change my workouts to running. And so I've been running a lot with podcasts, including you guys. So that helps keep things going and keeps my mind focused on something besides how much I hate running.
That's great.
And then the third is, and my wife always gets me on this one, always gets me for this one. I hate coffee and chocolate.
Oh.
So, those, for me, those are 2 things that, if I never had to see them again, I would be perfectly happy.
Oh my gosh, Kevin, I had no idea.
Yep.
Those are probably the ones that shock me the most.
and being in the field that we're in, people are always stunned that I hate coffee, but I just drink way too much soda instead, but I've never liked it.
Too funny.
Thank you, Kevin. We can forgive you for not liking coffee and chocolate because of your experience with Bobby Charlton. You are going to be super popular here with the UK listeners, definitely.
He's one of the greatest of all time. So
exactly. Yes. So after a successful career, Kevin, you started BZ Opportunity Management. What inspired you to start your company?
For years, I had been director of proposal development and had been, the one buying consulting resources. And I really saw what I looked at as kind of a gap in the market. And that's that you have a lot of 1099s and individuals who work really closely with their clients and are really engaged with their clients, but they can't scale. They're, working with 2 or 3 firms total. And on the other end, you have larger firms that can provide great support services, but really don't make that connection to their clients and sometimes even to their consultants. And so I wanted to set up a firm where we kind of split the difference, where we could provide especially small and mid-sized businesses with high quality, personalized, focused proposal support. So I really wanted to build a company that was focused on bringing in people that I know and trust or are highly recommended by people I know and trust so that I could maintain a high quality of consultant and really be able to match not just the needs on paper of our clients, but also what they need in terms of the type of personality and the type of engagement from each individual consultant to be successful.
That's so true. Kevin. So in this 2.5 years of running the company, Kevin, I think, what do you think is the best and the least aspects of running your own business?
I think, to be honest, the 2 biggest ones are having the freedom to take on work, to work with different clients, to be engaged on different types of opportunities, and being able to support a wide range of clients and a wide range of fields with our consulting team. So we're up around, we've got about 25 to 30 consultants on our books right now, and being able to match them with the right clients and seeing that combination really deliver high quality support for me is really the best thing that's come out of this. The worst thing is every day I realize that there's usually not enough hours in the day to get everything done. And being that historically I've been a really bad delegator, coming to terms with having to have other people do certain tasks that I really want to do myself, but know aren't possible, I think has been the hardest thing. In terms, honestly, there's nothing I don't like about it. Maybe having to deal with the tax payments and things like that, but overall being an entrepreneur running BZ Opportunity Management has just been amazing. And I've loved every second of it. It was something that I'm glad that I did.
Oh, definitely, Kevin. I think once you're an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. It's a very interesting experience, and you don't want to give up on that. I wholeheartedly agree with you, Kevin. Now we are in these testing times, coronavirus, self-isolation, etc. I'm sure there are people who will be looking to say, okay, now this is the right time to do something new. So, what advice would you give to these aspiring entrepreneurs?
The first thing is make sure you do your research. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, because running proposals as a full-time employee is 100 times different than running proposals as a consultant. From the level of, lack of a better term, control that you have, because you are an outside person, and in the end, it's your client's call, to the variability within the work. Sometimes you might be working 3 bids. Sometimes, you might go several weeks without an opportunity. So being prepared for that and making sure that you've looked into all the positives and negatives, I think is the first thing. And the second is have a realistic plan. I think making sure that you are ready for those potential hiccups, for any of the potential risks and negatives that come out of it, plus the positives. What are you going to do if all of a sudden you have, 4 clients who are banging on your door wanting you to support a bid at the same time? Making sure that you've thought through not just how you're going to handle this month or this week, but longer term. What are your plans for the first year, the first couple of years? Do you want to work nonstop? Do you want to work, 9 months and take 3 months off? Do you want to be, now obviously on-site support isn't really going on very much, but when we're under normal circumstances, do you want to be providing on-site support? Do you want to just be a remote contributor? Having a plan to tackle all of those types of questions, for me, is the most important thing. And, I was planning setting up BZ Opportunity Management and going out on my own for at least 6 months before I pulled the trigger. And those were the types of questions that I was asking myself, and that, my wife and I were talking about ahead of time, to make sure that, we were ready, both from a personal and professional point of view.
How is it working with your partner in the business?
It's most of the time it's amazing. And she's able to help us, help out a lot with making sure things go well, and provides a good check for me. And she's always done that from a professional point of view, given the fact that she has a contracts background. So it's very nice to have somebody who understands what I'm doing and going through, and vice versa.
That's perfect. I mean, yes, it looks like, Kevin, and from what you're saying, I think that technical skills, I think everybody can be good at, but there is much more onerous on the soft skills. So what soft skills are important for proposal professionals, either they're an employee or as a consultant?
I think that's a great question, because, as a lot of people say, none of us go to college wanting to be a proposal professional, right? None of us come into this field saying, this is exactly what I've studied my entire life for. But we all have great skills that can relate to this. And I'm a huge believer that people with a humanities background, not just in history, but in, English or other languages or fine arts or, those types of fields, really have a lot of skills to bring to business in general and proposal development in particular. The ability to communicate, I think, is the number one thing that every proposal professional needs to have. And I'm not just talking writing, but you need to be able to lead your meetings. You need to be able to articulate the points that you want to make and that you want to see in your proposal by talking and working with your teams through one-on-one sessions or solutioning meetings or kickoffs or whatever. So you need to be able to communicate clearly and succinctly. Sometimes I struggle at that a lot, but I think that's the number one thing. If you can communicate well, you can be a great proposal professional. There's other points, being able to research, being able to identify the right types of information that can go into your bid, that can add value to your team, and being able to see what the potential biases and shortcomings of those pieces of information are, can really add value to your proposal team and your proposal effort. And then finally, knowing how to work with different groups of people. There's a lot of research out there around cultural awareness and knowing how to work with different teams from different locations around the world. As we see an increasingly geographically dispersed workforce, as I work a lot in government proposals. So as you see bids for, Department of State or USAID, being able to understand those cultural environments, but cultural awareness and understanding applies to our everyday workplaces as well. Not just, the difference between people from different countries or even different regions within countries, but also how different people communicate and how they get their points across and how they best understand information, and having an awareness and understanding and a strategy to approach that are things that people with a humanities background have been doing their entire academic careers and translates very well to the professional world.
That's great, Kevin. I think it's so obvious, as you reiterate, empathy is a very important skill set. And what do you tell us a little bit about empathetic proposal writing and why is it important for us?
Yeah, so I mentioned before that we had just done that training on empathetic proposal writing. And for me, the first thing is to define empathy as being able to make connections with people. And in a proposal, you need to make connection with your evaluator. And the way that we do that on the written page is by showing the evaluator that not only do we understand what they need, but that we also can appreciate and articulate why they need it, and that then we can provide a solution to deliver on solving that need. So for me, the why is the most important part, right? Anyone can understand what a client needs, but when you can really understand why they need it, you start getting that buy-in right up front. You start getting the head nods that say, okay, this person really knows who I am. Because if we think about it, taking a half step back, the reason we need to make those connections, the reason we need to write in an empathetic manner is that buying is an emotional decision. At its core, when we think about it from a personal point of view, when we make a large purchase, right? When we buy a home or we buy a car, we have something emotionally invested in that. And the same carries over to our professional lives. Now, it's a different type of emotion. Sometimes it's your job is literally on the line, right? If you have a huge procurement and you're in charge of it and things go wrong, your professional livelihood might be might be at risk at that point. But even when it's not, people take pride in their work. People are engaged in their work, and people want to be successful in their work. There's an emotional connection to having done a good job, of being successful. And people will buy from those that they know and trust. And to make the connection between those 2 points, if you're able to show that you can help solve the issues, solve the problems that somebody's having in their day-to-day lives at work, that you're able to help them be successful, and that you're able to show that A, you know who they are and what they need, and B, they can trust you because you've done it before, because you have the ways to substantiate it, then you're really making that connection, and you can go from just a good proposal to an outstanding proposal that really relates to what the client needs.
Well said, Kevin. As they say, culture eats strategy for breakfast, and there are more and more talks about strategy, capture, proposals here and there. But as you rightly said, the focus or the onus should be on the character or the overall culture of the organization and the individual, and how they approach a bid will be drastically different from how a generic process-driven company deals with it. But that's brilliant, Kevin. Thank you. Kevin, with all these successful venture, you were involved with APMP for a very long time, Kevin. When did you start with APMP as a member?
So I had to go back and look up when this was. I first joined APMP in 2010, so it's now been it's been 10 years, and I think I let my membership lapse once for a year in that entire time. So 9 of the last 10 years I've been a member.
Perfect. I think that's great. And even while you were a member, you were also being part of your local chapter, the NCA chapter. Do you have any memories of being associated with your early part and all the way to now?
Yeah, so with NCA, I was the co-chair along with Nicole Tripodi of the Mid-Atlantic Conference in 2017 and 18. So we put on the Mid-Atlantic Conference, which is about 300 people, full day, proposal development conference in the DC area. It was awesome. I loved doing it. It was a lot of work, but it was really rewarding, especially, the day of the conference, to see A, how everything came together, and B, to see how many people were engaged in their sessions and were getting a lot out of it, and, how great the speakers were and how much they enjoyed being, in front of their audiences. And it was a lot of fun to do, and really rewarding to help people get in touch with others in the field and learn a lot about different pieces of proposal development.
Perfect, Kevin. And during that same time, you were also managed to do some of your certifications, Kevin. How long did it take for you to do the foundation practitioner, your timeline?
Let's see. Foundation, I want to say it was 2015, 2014, 2015, something like that. Practitioner, I finished, I think it was right after I started BZOM. So I want to say it was mid 18. That one took me a while. I kind of dragged my feet on finishing that one out. And finally I said to myself, all right, I have to get this done in the next, I think I set myself a 3-week timeline and got everything done, and had a couple of great mentors who kind of helped me out and got it and helped me finish, and then turned everything in and was happy to have it done. So one day I'll get the professional. I haven't had the time to devote to it, but I know that's the hardest one, obviously. And one of these days I'll get that taken care of.
Oh, definitely, Kevin. I think you will nail it pretty quickly because with your involvement with the chapter, with your involvement with speaking in conferences, and being with a much wider experience, what a professional should be fairly straightforward for you, I would hope.
Well, I hope so, but thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. And when did you attend the BitCon, Kevin? When was your first experience of your BitCon?
The first one was 2014 in Chicago.
Oh, wow. And do you attend BitCon frequently, or?
Yeah, I think the only one I've missed was 16 in Boston. Every other one I've been to, which was Seattle, New Orleans, Orlando. I know I'm missing at least one in there. San Diego,
yeah,
that one was a blast. So
perfect. And with all these, do you have any memorable experiences as an attendee and also as a speaker contributor?
I think as an attendee, the first time I went and just saw how many other people A, do this job, and B, really like doing it, was kind of like, I am not alone. I am not the only one who feels like this. And it was so reassuring and energetic. I just got so much energy. And every time I go to Bid and Proposal Con, I feel the same way. I'm like, this is awesome. Besides being able to catch with old friends and being able to see people who even if we live in the same area, we don't necessarily get to see each other all the time, is awesome. And so as an attendee, it's that energy and being able to, be with people who understand and relate. As a speaker, the first time I spoke was in New Orleans and I did an Ignite talk on why Winston Churchill would be the greatest and worst proposal professional. And it was definitely the most memorable speaking experience I've had because, and those who know, they were doing Ignite talks as the last day's keynote. So you're standing in front of pretty much all the conference attendees. So it was about 800 people. And you step on that stage, and even with the lights, you just see at the time, all I remember is seeing tables go as far back as I could see. And it was like, okay, I better not mess up. And I think it went well. It was a fun topic. I enjoyed it. And since then, I've spoken the last couple of years at the conference as well, and it's been a great experience. And I just love being able to share ideas and get some great feedback from people who attended sessions.
You're also going to speak in the Nashville conference? Yeah,
I've got a panel. We only have 2 people lined up right now, but we're getting the rest of them lined up. And we're going to be talking about how to inject creativity into the proposal lifecycle.
Creativity into proposal lifecycle? I raise my hand. I won't be the right person, Kevin.
I will touch base with you after this.
Okay. Kevin, I think that brings us, I'll set the scene for Ashley now by asking this one last question. Kevin, I'm hearing that you're a good or you're a big fan of Walt Disney and Pixar. So how have Walt Disney and Pixar inspired you as a proposal professional?
I would love to be able to blame that on having 2 elementary school age children, but I can't. And I've always been fascinated by the ability to tell a great story. When I was little, I wanted to be a writer, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, whatever. But I always loved the idea of being able to tell a strong, comprehensive story. And Disney, I think, does that pretty much better than anyone. And Pixar, as part of Disney, for me, is just brilliant in how they're able to hook you in and grab your attention and make you, for the hour and 45 minutes that you are involved in that story, really be a part of that world and fully engage with and get emotionally attached to the characters. And for me, that was kind of the jumping off point for coming up with this idea of building the empathetic proposal, was seeing how well they were able to, across various industries, across various media, to create that connection and that engagement with their audience, both Disney and Pixar. And then as I delved into it more, I saw there are processes and approaches that they use that are very similar to what we do. The biggest example that I can think of, especially off the top of my head, is the review process. So Pixar has something they call the brain trust model, which is a rotating group of creative and professionals who look at and provide feedback to each film throughout the development process, from idea to story to storyboarding to rough animation, all the way through. And the rules and the ways in which they engage are things that really should be things that we do in proposal development. And in terms of everybody being focused on the needs of the bid as opposed to their own agendas, taking on board the ideas that are put forth, if not necessarily solutions. So thinking about why people are making comments that they're making, not necessarily just following those comments and saying yes or no to them, but giving a lot of thought to them and maybe coming up with a new solution for the problem that they've identified. And just being able to approach a review with trust, honesty, and candor, for me, was as I was reading the book Creativity Inc., which is by Ed Catmull, who is the now retired president of Pixar. I think I was like scribbling on every page, and especially in that section on the reviews. So for me, there's just, we don't think of proposals as creative enterprises, but there's so much we can learn from creative organizations that can improve what we do.
Yeah. So as Bhaskar mentioned, that's a great kind of transition into our more fun, lighthearted, rapid fire questions round. So our first question for you, Kevin, is what's better, classic Disney or Pixar?
I'm going to go with Pixar. As great as the classic movies are, I think the increased inclusivity of the Pixar universe, and I would even say of the Walt Disney Animation universe now, I think can speak to more people and can speak better to where we are as a society necessarily than I'm a princess that needs a prince to come save them kind of storyline.
Yeah.
Not to take anything away from the especially the beauty of the animation of those films, but I think the modern storylines I think can better relate to today's environment.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And some of those strong female characters that they're bringing in and things of that nature are definitely more progressive and fit better with our times today. So do you have a favorite Disney movie?
So we just watched Onward this past weekend, which was really, really good, which is the latest Pixar one. But beyond that, I think I would still go back to either The Incredibles or WALL-E. I think are my two favorite when it comes to the Pixar movies. If you want to go traditional, like old school Disney, as a kid, I was obsessed with the movie The Fox and the Hound, which not most people haven't seen. So
I love that one.
I don't know why, but there's something about that movie that I just fell in love with as a kid. So
yeah, I think that one made me cry. So
I've admitted this on stage, so I'm okay saying it on a podcast. But the first 5 minutes of Up is like the most emotionally wrenching animation that I've ever watched. In that, when they meet, they fall in love, she died. It's just like, you get these tears. I was crying during that part, and I'm like, I am not ashamed to admit it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And that just speaks to how well Disney does at connecting to the audience and pulling out those emotions.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you could be a Disney character for a week, who would you choose and why?
Oh Lord. I'm gonna go with Woody from Toy Story, because and when you think about kind of what we do, he's a strong, level-headed, engaging leader who can get his teams to do things that they don't think are possible. And plus, I think it would just be really cool to be a cowboy for a week.
Absolutely. No, I love that answer. Okay, so sort of a similar thing. If you could eat only 3 things for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
First one are buffalo wings. I could not live without buffalo wings. And I'm happy to say that my daughter has jumped on that bandwagon as well. There was an article recently about how without the NCAA tournament, there is a glut of wings that are out there, and she did her little happy dance when she saw that, figuring we would have more wings to eat now. The second are pretzels. I love pretzels. People who have worked with me know I used to keep like the Costco size vat in my office at all times. So those would be 2. I would go with, and it's going to be a little broader, but I would go Chinese food. I've always really enjoyed Chinese food. We've got a great place near our house, and that delivers, and that would be the third option.
Sounds good. Lots of well-rounded kind of vegetables and meats you can get through Chinese food. So
yes,
the last choice.
Yeah, which I usually don't. I'll be honest, and you can tell that I'm not don't have the most well-rounded diet if I'm on my own by my answer to those 3.
Okay, so our next one for you is: what is your favorite word?
My favorite word. The word I use most is probably "so," because that's my crutch word when I'm speaking. But in terms of favorite word, just the first one that pops into my head is anti-disestablishmentarianism, because that's the longest word in the English language. Not that I think I've used that once in my entire life, but it's just a great word that includes so many different little, prefaces and all that kind of stuff in it. So we'll go with that for right now. And if I come up with anything else, I'll interrupt later on and tell you.
Yeah, no, definitely kind of like those weird long words with lots of syllables. They stand out and they're fun to say. So, Kevin, if you could be an Olympic athlete, what sport would you compete in?
Soccer. I would be, since I still play, I still, dream of being, an Olympic level or World Cup level goalie, which I will never even come close to. Although I may have competed against Tim Howard in high school.
Wow.
That would be the closest that I ever got to that level of competition.
Yeah. Maybe after all of your running, you'll have the endurance enough to.
No, I don't have the feet to do it, basically.
Maybe you should be doing soccer drills for your exercises and stuff.
I probably should. But in my mid 40s, I'm probably a little past the age of being able to be to make that much of an improvement in my career.
Yeah. Do you still play in any local leagues or fun events that?
I play in a rec league, co-ed rec league in the DC area in Fairfax County, and play. We play in one of the lower divisions, and it's just fun, and it's a good group to play with. And I don't feel badly about being the third oldest on the team. I think I am right now, because I'm the keeper, so I can keep playing as long as I don't have to run very far.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Those leagues are a lot of fun, and they just are about the fun of the sport. So
yes,
I'm glad you're still able to participate in those. So if your 5-year-old self suddenly found themselves inhabiting your current body, what would your 5-year-old self do first?
Under normal circumstances, my 5-year-old self would probably go out and buy New York Giants season tickets. But given the world we are living in right now, that's not very likely. So my 5-year-old self would probably, honestly, would go run around in our back. We've got a great backyard in our house, which is one of the main reasons we bought this house. Because I have a 6-year-old boy, so I'm kind of trying to think through his eyes and his mind right now. And I think running around and playing on the swing set in our backyard that we have would probably be the first thing that I would do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just those lighthearted, fun days where playing is your top priority. Kind of miss those, right?
This time I'll be honest, as hard as it's been, that's been one of the fun parts is being able to detach a little bit more from work and being able to run around with them and watch them bike and run up and down the street and play in the backyard and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, no, it's amazing. And so glad you're being able to use this time for, engaging with your kids more. Yeah. So, love it. All right, this one's kind of a tough one, I think. Would you rather lose the ability to read or lose the ability to speak?
Most people that know me are going to be shocked by the fact that I'll say speak. I've always been a voracious reader. And, back as a kid, my dad had these old golden book encyclopedias from when he was a kid, and I would read those cover to cover until I broke the spines off them. So I've always been a huge reader and loved reading. I mean, you can't get a PhD in British history unless you love reading.
Right, yeah.
So I think if I could no longer read, I think just there would be something missing in who I was. Whereas if I could no longer speak, I wouldn't, what's the old line about, keep quiet so that you don't prove that you're a fool. I would be able to avoid some of those situations.
Oh my gosh, I love it, Kevin. So as a history buff and loving history, if you could transport yourself back in time to experience one event from the past, what would you choose and why?
One event from the past. I would say it would be amazing to go back to the first or back to the Easter Rising in 1916, which was in the beginnings of the modern Irish independence fight. And the reason was it was a very socially relevant and socially inclusive movement. In fact, one of the leaders of that was somebody that I loved reading about named Countess Constance Markovitz, who led troops for the rebels, was convicted of treason, was ended up being pardoned, and ended up running for the House of Commons from Ireland in 1918, and in the first election where women could run, and was the first woman elected was the first woman elected to the British Parliament. She never took her seat because she was part of the Sinn Féin party at the time, and didn't take her seat in Parliament. But she was the first woman ever elected. So being able to meet people like that, who were such, interesting and unique characters, who are so engaged and involved, I think would have been awesome. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And she sounds like kind of like a trailblazer for, women's movements and things like that. So.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Last one before we move into kind of our gratitude round. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
The chicken. I have no reason for saying that. It's just what popped into my head first.
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? Because philosophically, how can you even? But always. But
you could say the chicken evolved from something else to the point where it was a chicken, and then carried on through having its own eggs.
Very good point, right? So it had to evolve first and then have the eggs to continue on in the chicken path.
I guess that's not going to come up with.
All right. Well, thanks, Kevin.
That's what you get when you ask a historian a biology question.
Right. Well, you gave kind of the most intriguing answer to the historical event from the past that I think we've heard so far. So
I can hang my hat as a historian on that.
Absolutely.
If you could date any celebrity, who would it be and why?
Oh, do you want to get me in trouble with my wife, or the probably the best answer for that is Kristen Bell, because she's very attractive, she is funny as anything, and she's very socially engaged. Granted, she's married to Dax Shepard, so that would mean, probably not going to happen, but there you go.
You have done your research there. Okay, last one before I move to the gratitude one. Name one thing that drives you crazy?
Grammatical errors. I know Ashley agrees with this one because we've talked about this. When you're crazy in proposals, there are certain terms and word usage that kind of drives me a little nuts. The biggest one is the use of the word utilize. Public service announcement, utilize does not mean the same thing as use. 99% of the time you use the word utilize, you are using it incorrectly. So that it's one of those silly things that whether it's, I hear a speech or something like that, I'm like, no, you should be saying use, not utilize. And I make sure that all of my proposals are written in a way that uses the word use and the word utilize correctly.
That's a good one, because I do use utilize often. I learned something. Thanks, Kevin. So looking back, Kevin, who are the people who you believe are the most influential in your career?
In my life and career, I would say, first would be my wife. She's, both professionally and personally has been incredibly supportive and is there for whatever I need, from a professional, and also from a professional personal point of view. Probably the biggest mentor I've had is Jeff Leitner, who I worked first for at Stanley Associates way back in the day, my first proposal job. I worked for him at 3 different companies. So I followed him around a bit, and Jeff was just is a great person. He's a great leader. And he knows so much about proposals and is so willing to help out and get his hands dirty when he needs to, but also just be there for advice and a sounding board and, help out, from a professional or personal point of view.
What's the best piece of advice you've received and from whom?
So I'd say there's two. The first one was not received personally, but it was from Winston Churchill, which is, if you are going through hell, keep going. And I think especially in proposals, there are lots of times where we're going through hell, where we're having a really rough bid or just a rough day on the bid, and making sure that we stay focused and that we continue to work on making each individual bid that we work on the best, and each part of each bid the best that we can, is something really important to us from a professional point of view. The other would be actually something that Jeff taught me throughout, and that was that do not let proposals get in the way of your life. And mainly that comes up, especially when, we have a vacation planned, or we have an outing planned, and something drops and something happens, and we feel like we have to rush to get, the professional side done and leave out the personal side. And it's really important to keep that balance. And so if you have that vacation planned and your bid drops, you know what? The bid will still be there, or you can get somebody else to support it. You have to make sure that you keep your priorities and your keys in life focused on where they should be. And sometimes that's professional, sometimes that's personal, but making sure that you keep that balance and a good idea of what you need and what you need to do in each situation has really been important.
That's brilliant, Kevin. And recently we all are self-isolated. What's the best thing about working from home? And have you taken time to enjoy it recently?
Yeah. So as a consultant, I work a lot remotely, which is great, which has made the adjustment not that hard. I think the best parts of working from home are being able to be more engaged. I tend to do most of the school drop-offs in the morning, which my kids don't have to be until 9:20 in the morning. So it's, a little bit later. So that's, something that I think really is a benefit of being here at home, or being able to, right now, as you said, with the self-isolation, being able to take half an hour and go. My 6-year-old is obsessed with rugby. So being able to go throw the rugby ball around with him, or watch them bicycle in the street, I think is great. And I think being able to still get a lot done, I think, being able to focus and close the door and being able to get what I need to get done, usually in a shorter amount of time when I'm working from home, is another benefit to it from a professional point of view.
Yes, last question, Kevin, from me. What's something that you witnessed recently that reminded you that people are good?
I think one of the things about a crisis like this is that we see, there's millions of little examples of things that you see, from the people making masks for people they don't even know, as for personal protection, to John Krasinski started this Some Good News show on YouTube, and I was just reading about this morning, that this 9-year-old girl I believe it was in Tampa, was supposed to go see Hamilton for her birthday. And John Krasinski, being, the very famous actor married to Emily Blunt, pulled some strings and got the original cast of Hamilton to sing the opening song of Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, for this girl over a Zoom session for her birthday. That's a big thing, but, and one that's going to get lots of headlines, but there's millions of little ones of people getting, groceries for their friends and for their neighbors nearby. And, just, checking in on people, giving them a quick call or a text to say, hey, I was thinking of you and hope you're doing okay. I think, it as difficult as this situation is, I think we're seeing some of the best in humanity come out of it as well.
That's brilliant, Kevin. I think we all do need to have the positive news that's trickling along with all the social media and and general media. I think there's a lot of fear in the thing, and I'm glad the examples like that will mean a lot to all our listeners.
Yeah, well, like in the UK, I mean, the fact that people are going out on their steps at a certain time, on a regular basis to clap in recognition of those who are working for the NHS or for other health services, is just, it's a small thing, but I'm sure it means a lot to those who are putting in the time and are making the huge sacrifices in order to help others.
All right, Kevin. So we're down to our final 3 questions. It's been so amazing to hear about your journey, your experience. You've accomplished a lot and you're still very quite young in the industry. And so you have so many more years to come. But so far, what are some of the accomplishments that you're most proud of so far?
I think that that's a great question, and thank you for saying that. I'm still somewhat young. I think that the biggest accomplishments, honestly, have been setting up BC Opportunity Management and taking that risk and being able to not only help our clients, but one of the things that we look to do is bring in people who can't work a full-time on-site job and whether they're stay-at-home parents or have other commitments, and being able to get them engaged and being able to provide support when and how they can, I think has been great, and it's been a great value to us to be able to have people like that. But I'd also say, speaking at Bid and Proposal Con, several times, it's been an honor and some, especially the first time, somewhat humbling when you see names up there, when Mike Parkinson and BJ Lowney and all these other people who when you're in proposals, you're like, wow, those are people that I read and see the blog posts from and always make sure I look at, and then to see your name alongside those, it's kind of it's not kind of humbling, it's incredibly humbling. So
absolutely, yeah.
Those would be, I think, the two that I'm most proud of at this point.
Oh, those are amazing. So, we mentioned that you're still, young in the industry, but still, you've gone through a lot. You've experienced so much over the years. If you could go back and give your younger self any piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it would mainly be, like I said, I think Jeff's advice was awesome in terms of making sure you keep that balance, and that you realize that no matter how hard an individual day or an individual part of a proposal is, that you and your team are going to get it done, and that there's always a light at the end of that tunnel, that you're always going to be able to move on and be able to find the right solution, find the right way to answer the problems that you have. And, don't get so worked up in each individual moment that you lose sight of the bigger picture.
That's great advice and a very positive message, and, something we need to always keep reminding ourselves.
It might have also kept me from cursing so much during certain bids when I'm off on my own, but so that would have also probably been a positive.
Absolutely. I think we can all relate to that as well. All right, Kevin. So last one for you. What is something that you're looking forward to in the future?
Honestly, I think right now, and this is going to be funny coming from an introvert, but I'm looking forward to being able to be out with people again, and both personally and professionally. And what I mean by that is, being able to enjoy, what it means to be human, right? I mean, whether it's, gathering for a cookout or, a fire pit evening on a nice night like last night, to being able to go to, see the Giants hopefully win another Super Bowl at some point, maybe eventually, or go see Manchester United go play at Old Trafford again, to something like Bid and Proposal Con, where we're able to get together and share our experiences and what we love to do. And I think, as great as the technology is that allows us to, virtually connect with people, there's still something missing. And I think, right now, for me, that's going to be the number one thing once we get back to being able to see each other and be with each other. And, from a professional point of view, continuing to be able to support our awesome clients and be able to continue working on, cool projects, both from a client point of view and, the empathy work that I've been doing. But right now, I think the number one focus is to try and get away from all of us being on our own and be back to being together.
No, absolutely. And I think that's something that everyone listening will be able to relate to. I think we're all starting to go a little stir crazy at this point, and just really miss that human interaction.
Yeah, I was joking with my wife this weekend that I'm a massive introvert, but even I'm like, can we get with some people eventually? So
yeah, no, totally hear you there.
Because you have a very interesting background on history, political science, coming back to here. Is there any part of your academic thing that you want to touch there as well before we close?
I loved doing history. I loved being a grad student and teaching and researching. And my dissertation topic was on memory and the slave trade in the Victorian era, and it was just looking at how people looked back and remembered Britain's role in the slave trade and the abolition of the slave trade. And I spent a lot of time researching that. I spent multiple trips over to the UK. Time in the newspaper archives in Colindale in North London, some time back in Bristol to do some research. And, it was a great, several years of my life, and being able to go through that academic experience and that personal growth experience was awesome. And if, under different circumstances, that's where I would still be, but I'll be happy. I'll be honest. I very much love doing proposals, and I'm glad like all of us, I'm glad I fell into it, and I'm glad I'm doing it now.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for your time. I think it's really been a privilege to have you with us at Scribble Talk. Wish you all the good health, happiness, and please do continue to inspire bid and proposal community and everybody around you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay strong. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Bhaskar. Thanks, Ashley. That was awesome, and I really appreciate you having me on.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundaram,
signing off.